Yes, it's finally time. The moment you've all been waiting for. My opinion. Compiled all 22 clips of Jayden Daniels with me talking over it so you could just mute the audio and watch his film? Well, don't mind if I do. Let's start with strengths. Hey, here's something obvious. Jayden Daniels is a really fucking good runner. Just as a pure athlete, he has instant burst, incredible change of direction, quick twitch, good vision in the open field, and elite straight line speed for a quarterback. He's explosive in space to consistently make defenders miss, and he has great balance to run through arm tackles and to bounce off defenders when they fail to wrap up. He has excellent ability to sequence together his moves in space, and he displays excellent curvilinear acceleration. Yeah, take that bootleg football podcast. He's just so damn fast and elusive. His rushing ability is a real threat, and his threat to run must be accounted for on every single play, or else he will make the defense pay. This opens up the offense in so many ways with designed runs, option plays, bootlegs, and his pure threat as a rusher sucks linebackers in and demands a spy, making his passing plays easier. As a passer, he has very tight, refined footwork, which he pairs with good, not great, arm strength and prototypical quarterback height. He works best right now as a deep passer, which is one of his big strengths because he was tasked so often with throwing slot fades, so he's very experienced at throwing down the sidelines and displaying some excellent ball placement on a good number of these throws. He's able to make these plays with anticipation and release it before the wide receiver is out of their break, and just put it right out of the cornerback's reach. I had written to myself to put in a couple examples and describe them to you as I usually do in the videos, but I forgot to do it, so I'll just show some on the screen as I'm saying this now, because trust me, there will be plenty of videos to go over throughout this video, especially in the next section. This is probably a good play, and this one. The next two things I want to discuss are kind of a big talking point on Daniels, and I believe I have an explanation for the different perspectives. Some argue that he, 1, doesn't throw well to the middle of the field, or just ignores the middle of the field too much, and/or 2, doesn't read the full field and has too many first read and run type plays. Admittedly, I almost came out with this video about 3 weeks ago about how I was super concerned about Jayden Daniels after I watched the first 5 games of tape I had on him. I very literally had a whole intro typed out about the controversial nature of the video and how I didn't see him as a first-round quarterback. At that time, I was really concerned that he ignored the middle of the field. I was really concerned about his ability to see and make NFL throws, and I thought he was just kind of a first read, second read, and run type quarterback who couldn't scan the field. But as I've watched more film of him, those concerns still kind of exist, but to a significantly smaller extent than they did before. I think you can reasonably come away with those conclusions from the film, but it's easily just as reasonable to come away with the exact opposite conclusion. It just kind of depends on what games you watch. For example, let's see how my initial opinion was formed and how it was changed, starting with how it was formed. The first 5 games of tape that I watched of Jayden Daniels were against Florida, Alabama, and Florida State in 2023, and Florida and Alabama again, but this time in 2022. Let's start with FSU in 2023. On this play, I was happy to see him move through his reads, but was really disappointed to see him not throw this ball to Neighbors and then follow it up by airmailing this ball to the check down. Here, he just straight up led the crosser too far, leading to an incompletion. On this one again, I felt like he shouldn't have held on to his first read so long, given the unlikelihood that he was going to get open, and that extra tick that he stayed on the number 1 receiver could have been used to release this ball to the underneath route. Here again, I was bothered because he only looked at his first read and then dipped. Here, he does an excellent job progressing to the backside dig, but the poor placement of the ball on the wide receiver's outside shoulder turns this from a completion to a PBU. Then against Bama in 22, same stuff. Locks onto his first read, then just starts running when it's not open. And Florida in 2022. I know he was facing pressure on this play, but I wanted to see him just release this ball to the tight end in between the linebackers and safeties and just take the hit rather than attempting to run. Still Florida, but now 2023. I was frustrated that he didn't see this throw to Neighbors here. Whether he saw it and turned it down or just didn't see him at all, I'm not completely sure. Obviously, he made up for it with an excellent run, but I still wanted to see him throw that. And now Bama in 2023, I wanted to see him try this honey hole shot in between the defenders. Given that it appears he's looking at him, he could have thrown this thing with anticipation right on the sideline as the wide receiver starts to break, but his hesitation gives the defense time to recover, making him move to the check down. Okay, so whether you agree with my initial assessments of the tape or not, I think there is still some objectively reasonable basis for persons watching that tape to conclude that Jayden Daniels was not taking or seeing certain NFL throw opportunities, particularly throws over the middle of the field, or that he was moving too slowly through his reads and not reading the full field. But then, when all hope is lost, I received some new film, and boy, was I impressed. Here, Daniels drops back and beautifully drops this ball in against zone coverage after looking off the safety. On the next one, Daniels quickly and intelligently moves off multiple reads, progresses to the opposite side of the field, and hits Neighbors in the middle of the field for a big gain. On this next one, Daniels moves through practically all his receivers, breaks the pocket, and is able to find Neighbors underneath. Here on the design rollout, Daniels works to his backside wide receiver and finds him on the run yet again. On this one, Daniels looks the linebacker over to the left to create some space, and then takes a shot while putting this ball in the perfect spot to Neighbors in between the defenders. Yet again, Daniels delivers a perfect ball to Neighbors right in between multiple defenders. That is perfect. Beautiful throw. Here, Daniels progresses through a full field of reads and works to his backside dig, hitting him for an excellent gain. Sounding like a broken record, and I like it. Again, Daniels works all the way through to his backside read, throwing this ball with anticipation into the middle of the field. I think you guys get the idea. It seems like he can throw to the middle of the field and that he can work through full field reads. I don't want to conflate these two things. They are two different issues, but I just wanted to address them at once because I feel like the same issues popped up in the first bunch of tape and not so much in the second bunch of tape. But before I wrap up on this point, I need to make sure you know I'm not hiding the ball. As humans, we love to compartmentalize things, so I figured it'd be easier to show you how my own scouting of Daniels went by showing you what I disliked about him in my first few games of tape watching, and how I came around on him and changed my opinion after the next few games. By doing so, I definitely don't mean to suggest that there weren't highs in the first game and that there weren't lows in the second batch of games. I just felt that the frequency differed between those batches of games. So that's not to say that he didn't make any beautiful middle of the field throws or that he didn't go through progressions in the games that I watched originally. It's just that the frequency was so much lower in those games that I just didn't feel confident that he was able to do it at a consistent level. It's also not to say that there weren't bad plays in the other batch of games. With that out of the way, my ultimate conclusion on the argument over Daniels throwing over the middle and reading the field when watching all these plays, plus all of the other plays in those games, is as follows. Daniels is very capable and even good at working in structure, reading and progressing through the full field, and throwing into the middle of the field with anticipation. I think the plays where it seems like he doesn't read the full field are explained by context. His college offense asked him to throw a lot of vertical routes, including slot fades, curls, and comebacks. On these types of routes versus man coverage, the quarterback isn't really asked to read the full field, as the focus is more on the timing at which the ball is thrown, and of course, the accuracy. The cornerback's eyes are naturally turned away from the quarterback, so it isn't as big of a deal if you're staring at the wide receiver. On these plays, you're asked to read the leverage of the wide receiver, and there are times you should move off them, but many of these throws are supposed to be released with anticipation that the wide receiver will separate based on the leverage at the time the ball is thrown, rather than seeing the wide receiver actually separate, so you need to be looking at them. Because of the massive amount of these types of plays called by his college offense, plus the standard amount of quick game plays thrown on top of that, I think his tape on a surface level indicates that he's not really reading the full field. But I'm confident that he can do it because when he was asked to do it, more times than not he delivered, and the sample size of him working through progressions and finding his third or fourth read and converting is high enough for me to say that. In terms of the middle of the field, he showed significantly more promise with them than most college quarterbacks. His layered throws were fantastic, and he displayed great touch, anticipation, and ball placement on most of them, especially against zone coverage. Yeah, sometimes he didn't find the receiver in the middle of the field. Sometimes he saw them and turned them down. And other times he had a poorly thrown ball. But he's a college quarterback. It's gonna happen. So after all of that argument, we can add throwing to the middle of the field and working through full field reads to the strengths column. All that discussion for 2 sentences. Hope you're having fun. For the people who watch the videos just to get all 22 and mute me, I'm going to throw up a pickle on the screen right now. It'll be our little secret. Anyways, just because I disagree with a major criticism of his game doesn't mean I'm necessarily higher on him than other evaluators. As always, he has weaknesses to his game as well that do give me a bit of pause. The first thing that is mentioned about him a lot is that he's way too slight. At 210, he's in the 16th percentile for weight, and he's 6'4". He's obviously very skinny when you look at him, and it can show on the field in the way that he takes some absolutely gnarly hits. I'll give him credit because he gets up after every single one of these hits, but his weight combined with his absolute reckless abandon on rushing plays plus the frequency in which he rushes leaves him highly susceptible to injuries, as you can see him get legitimately rattled by some of these hits. As a passer, I consider the consistency of his ball placement and accuracy to be a big weakness. His ball placement was get it in the area type of ball placement, especially against man coverage, where I often felt like he was leading wide receivers way too far in front or throwing behind wide receivers. He didn't really hit wide receivers in stride enough, requiring the wide receivers to adjust and sacrifice yards after the catch. He was consistently throwing behind wide receivers on out routes, leading to PBUs, throwing too inside to wide receivers on curls and comebacks, or just simply throwing behind wide receivers other time. Although there is something to be said about being able to get it in the area, it reduces his floor because poor ball placement could lead to more difficult catches for wide receivers, consequently causing more PBUs. On some occasions, his poor ball placement will lead to interceptions, but I wouldn't even really say he always gets it in the area either, as his general accuracy was not that consistent. There were some really awful, inaccurate misses at times to wide receivers, and too many times where he just under or overthrew wide open opportunities, which don't come often in the NFL, so they have to be converted. I found that he was often late on throws too, and being late on these throws turned open throws into contested ones for no reason, and this will need to be dealt with on the NFL level. I also felt that he was a bit too quick to break the pocket too often, and when breaking the pocket, he had a bad habit of dropping his eyes to avoid the rush, instead of feeling the development of the pocket and keeping his eyes downfield. He can run himself into pressure at times or hold on to the ball too long, but I wouldn't say those two things are particularly prominent, but sometimes an issue. I didn't really feel like I saw him throw enough off his initial spot. What I mean by that is that I didn't see him step up as much as I'd like and throw, and when scrambling out to the sides, it felt like he almost would prefer to run rather than throwing. He would step up and release the ball if he saw someone open while he was doing it, but I rarely saw him step up and reset his feet and continue to scan the field without immediately taking off. So what I mean here is that as soon as he felt pressure, it was basically like, I'm gonna reset, and I'm only gonna throw it if I see somebody open while I'm resetting, and if not, I'm taking off. Outside of designed bootlegs, I also felt like he showed somewhat of an unwillingness to throw on the run. Obviously, there are plenty of examples of him throwing on the run, but I felt like he had way more opportunities that he didn't take, and he definitely isn't as much of a playmaker as Caleb Williams and Drake Maye in regards to being a threat to chuck the ball downfield outside of the pocket. Obviously, he's a huge playmaker when it comes to the run game and from playing in the pocket. But that brings us to our last weakness, in that I think his arm talent is only average, which probably explains why he struggled to push the ball consistently on out routes, and why he didn't attempt to launch the ball while on the run. From a good base, he has a solid arm, but I don't think his arm is an elite tool like it is for Caleb Williams or anything. Wow, I can't believe we're finally done here. I know you guys have been asking for this for a long time, but I'm also happy I waited. I think I made a bit of a mistake with the Drake Maye video by releasing it before I had enough games of tape, and I think this video more accurately captures my opinion of Daniels than that one does of Drake Maye. I'm still learning this process and trying to get better every single video. My channel's only a year old, and my channel was made at the back end of the draft last year, so I'm still trying to kind of figure out when I want to start putting out prospect breakdown. But for all of you who are waiting and requesting this video, I really appreciate your support, as well as all of you who just watch or who comment and who like and subscribe, or who are just involved in this community in any way, really. I really hope you enjoyed this one, as I've really been looking forward to putting it out. And if you're new here, I'd love if you subscribed and joined our community. Let me know what you guys think below. Agree? Disagree? Pickle? It's an inside joke. Let's talk below. I'd love to hear who you guys want to see next. But also, let's just talk NFL or draft prospects in general, so sound off below. That's it, guys. Later.